happened 5 minutes ago, it's actually more difficult for them to remember. And then sometimes there may be behavioral changes. So a very calm person suddenly starts being aggressive, or for no reason at all, they become sad, moody, they're at home, they are struggling to remember what's the time, is it morning, is it afternoon, or getting lost in familiar places. So you realize that somebody in his own usual environment, they start walking about and where am I? So they tend to get lost. And for this, I would want to add a short story. So why the organization was found. So we had an old lady who was in 2010 traveling to see her son in Tema, a venue she was used to frequenting. When she got there, she got lost, and this was very late into the night. So she finally found herself in someone else's compound because she wasn't sure where she was. And because of the memory impairment, sometimes there's this shame and stigma. So when you ask them questions, they struggle to find the words to answer. So the first thing that comes to mind, they may say it or agree with you just to get you off their backs. So coincidentally, this family was having a prayer meeting or something of the sort, and then found out that this woman was the witch that had been plaguing them. They asked her if she was a witch, and she answered yes. Unfortunately, this woman was beaten and burned to death. By the time the son realized his mom hadn't gotten home and reported it to the police, it was too late.
Is it a scenario or a real story?
It's a real story.
Now, so does it mean that it affects a certain or older folks rather than younger people?
It tends to predominantly affect people over 65. Rarely it may present before 60, and then we call it an early onset dementia, but mostly it's a disease of older people.
So it is plagued by memory loss?
Memory loss, behavioral changes, and then difficulty performing everyday activities such as eating, putting on your clothes the right way, and then the normal social functions that we deem acceptable. All those things are affected.
Is that why in our society, when folks are growing older, our folks or people we know who are older and are forgetting a lot of things, we seem to make the assumption that they are witches, they are plagued with certain...
Yes, unfortunately. So memory loss, to an extent, is associated with normal aging, but dementia is not a normal type of aging. So with people who exhibit symptoms beyond what we expect for older persons, they tend to be labeled as witches, because in Africa and in Ghana, the awareness is very low, and that's one of the key areas that we are working on as Alzheimer's Ghana. So you realize that in the north, we actually have witch camps when people have to run for refuge because they are labeled as witches, because now they start behaving and doing certain things and are, in quotes, an embarrassment to their family and then the society, because we don't know how to cope with these people in Ghana. Yes.
Alzheimer's Ghana, have you done some work that's indicating that particularly for those witch camps, most of those occupants or inmates could be suffering from some level of dementia or Alzheimer's?
Yes, so we are in partnership with the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection.
Which one? The Ghana Ministry?
Yes, the Ghana Ministry. There's a lot of work going on in policy development.
But they say they don't have money, so I'm wondering.
Yes, it's a struggle. Funding is one of our challenges, so we are hoping that after this, we would have people come in to help us out. But yes, we've realized that with the witch camps, there are a lot of women suffering from dementia over there. But the struggle is integrating them back into their society, because the society is still adapting to be able to accept this, that this is something that happens to, it could happen to anybody. So we need to treat them with dignity and respect.
I know that elsewhere in the developed world or the developed West, research for funding for research is very high in this regard, yes, or in this area.
Yes.
And in Africa, because every time corruption and those things, how are we making sure that it becomes a mainstay of conversation, since we are now getting a population that is also aging in a way, yes, even though, of course, one half is also seeing a lot of mortalities.
Yes.
Before the
so
time.
Alzheimer's Ghana is doing a lot of work in that regard. So we are advocating strongly with the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Gender, and all these stakeholders to try and get a policy document. It's one of WHO's recommendations for every country by the year 2030, because we've seen that there are higher incidences in developed world. But some of the things we do is care and support for persons at home. So we have support groups, people call us, and then we come home, we see the person. So those are the people that, sometimes the people that we negotiate with are in a bit of higher places. So when they come and they see what we do firsthand, they're able to connect us to some of the stakeholders. So we are doing a lot of work, but there's still more room to be done.
Okay. So have we found out the number of people who suffer from Alzheimer's in Ghana or some level of dementia?
Okay, so in Ghana, we don't have a specific study that has
As
estimated
always,
the
we don't.
actual prevalence, but it's been projected from the global trend and then the sub-Saharan African values that at least 100,000 people are suffering from dementia. And by the year 2050, we expect that it will triple.
Does it mean that there are known causative factors?
Yes, there are known causative factors. So the main risk, maybe let me say risk factors. The main risk factor is aging. And now, because of better healthcare systems, people are actually growing older. That is why we are seeing more cases. And then we have, so aside the Alzheimer's, which is idiopathic, it doesn't have a particular known cause, just a genetic tendency. That means if someone in your family has had it,
Some level of dementia or Alzheimer's.
you may, someone else in the family may have it. And then we have the one that we can actually do something about. That's the vascular dementia. So these ones are caused by little strokes in the parts of the brain that are responsible for memory and these executive functions. So with time, these strokes called lacunar infarcts, they start to present in these symptoms that I've described before. So for that one, for people with hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, we always advise that check your blood pressure, your sugar, your cholesterol, make sure that it's within good values. Take your medications, don't smoke, don't take alcohol, don't do hard drugs, and then you make sure that you are exercising regularly. And for people who are older, we encourage mental stimulation. So these math puzzles and then these crosswords and all that, these games and social functions, all these things slow the rate of development of dementia in older persons.
Right. You know Dr. Omalo?
Yeah.
Okay. So because he was very much instrumental in discovering what they call a CST? Okay. And particularly because it's involved those in American football, etc. Do you do some sort of education, especially since sports that's related to some level of trauma could also lead to early onset?
Yes, traumatic brain injury has been instigated in the development of dementia, but for now, our work has mainly been with the older persons who tend to be neglected. But with time,
we want to go to basics first before we go to
yes,
okay. So all the ministry people you have been mentioned, gender and health, what support are they giving you?
So sometimes we are able to get platforms to be able to raise awareness. So we go to some of the nursing schools. We've been to some of the other regions, Kumasi, Hohoi, Tamale, where we've been able to start support groups. And sometimes we get staff because everybody in Alzheimer's Ghana is a volunteer. So sometimes we need extra hands to go about our duties. And then sometimes if we need a place or we need a little bit of funding to promote our activities, we are able to collaborate with them. But right now, we're mainly advocating for a policy document on how Alzheimer's should be handled in Ghana.
All right. At what point in time, beyond just TV and radio, should we be intensifying or intensifying community education, as well as with key stakeholders or those who are opinion leaders in communities? Yeah. Because from what you're saying, there's some level of stigma that's attached.
There's a high level of stigma.
Okay, not only some level,
no,
a high level.
For people to call us and say, this is what is going on in my home, it's very difficult for most people in Ghana. So in the UK, there's a model called the Dementia Friends, which is goes to show that the health personnel or the NGOs cannot do the work alone. So that's what we are trying to do. So today, I'm making you a dementia friend. So wherever we get the platform to create awareness, we challenge those that we meet, and then to make sure that when they also go, that ripple effect is created, that they also make awareness of dementia wherever they find themselves.
Right. Okay. We're ready to partner you as early as we can, but it will mean that it will take a lot of efforts. So usually, beyond the description that you've given about somebody who was misconstrued to be a witch because she agreed to, what other behavioral patterns do you see so that perhaps in our older folks, we as their children, grandchildren could identify that?
Yes. Okay. So I've spoken about the memory and indicated that the short-term memory is what goes away first in the early stages. But with time, you realize that there's also long-term memory loss. So there's difficulty identifying people that they are familiar with. So we have clients who we've gone home and unfortunately they struggle to recognize their families, they struggle to recognize their grandchildren. And then there's also with the same memory, there's another story that we would share that's unfortunate. So there's a family where there was this old lady being taken care of by one of her children in Ghana, and there was another child outside the country sending money for her upkeep. Unfortunately, when the one in Ghana feeds her, she tends to forget that she has eaten.
Oh.
So when she's called, she says, I haven't eaten anything today. Your sister is not taking good care of me. So it caused a fight between the two sisters until the one outside came back down and then realized that this is what was happening. And they all thought the woman was wicked for saying that we are taking good care of you, but you are painting this bad picture of us. But that's, unfortunately, it wasn't her fault. So if you notice that somebody you've done something for, and then, or for no reason, maybe sometimes they tend to be aggressive, start hurling insults at those around them, being moody for no reason. Sometimes they wake up in the middle of the night, try to leave the house, or sometimes it's in the morning, they think it's in the evening. They wear they may tend to wear their clothes on the wrong way. So you are used to somebody coming to work well groomed as you look here, and then tomorrow you come to work looking a bit shabby or wearing your tie upside down or something. Then we need to realize that that's maybe affected.
Since we have a lot of older folks in leadership positions and big offices, with that we are working with them, what should be some of the things we should notice about them? Because you're saying from 65, somebody could be suffering from some level of memory loss.
Yes.
But this one at the extreme level, if you look at the spectrum.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, so it's difficult to say we should be diagnosing those.
But we have to notice them because all the leaders, they are old. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, I think most of our leaders are doing fine. They are doing well. I'll take this opportunity to commend the former president, Kufuor. He doesn't have dementia, but he's one of our strong partners and has been helping us with our advocacy efforts.
All right. Okay. Where can we reach you? Alzheimer's Ghana.
Yes, so our office is located at Tema Community 22, around the Afariwa Junction. But you can reach us on phone. So if you have anybody around you or you think that you may benefit from our services, we urge you to kindly reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to pay you a visit and give you our contact, add you to our support group and help you navigate, especially with caregiver education and information. Sometimes it's difficult for the caregivers. So that's one of our main focus areas, to teach them how to make sure that the person lives a dignified life. So our phone number is 0248 693 431.
Okay.
0248 693 431. And our email address is info@alzheimersgh.com. So we'll be grateful if you can get in touch with us.
Right. We had promised to open the phone lines, but we can because we have to get another conversation going. But we do promise that we'll come to a community near you where you usually operate and get a story of somebody who lived with us so that we can also better retell that story to our audience. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Sally Yali. She also works with UGMC right here in Accra, but currently is head of advocacy, care and support, Alzheimer's Ghana. Dr. Sally Yali, very beautiful, intelligent medical doctor, and looking at this as well. But please, it's something all of us need to take notice of. Onset of dementia, and one of the extreme forms is Alzheimer's. And that's why we have Alzheimer's Ghana, making sure that they start this advocacy, and all of us need to be involved. We're taking a break. We'll be right back. When we come back, we'll tell you why you should be interested in this Sunday's finale of Talented Kids. Stay with us.